Hey, so let's talk about the topic of all of the technology now available in support of sourcing and talent acquisition overall. I mean, let's face it, the number of new platforms and apps and better mousetraps entering the market every month is beyond overwhelming. The majority of leaders responsible for ensuring that hiring is happening in an efficient and effective manner cannot even begin to be knowledgeable of all that's available to them. So at Reveal, we spend a considerable amount of time researching, reviewing, sitting for demos, and determining which technologies can help us to help our clients even better than we have in the past. There's a real simple strategy for managing the review of all these technologies that I've learned, and that is to be clear on the major components of your hiring process and the measurable performance of each. Then you're able to examine the tool for such a component like sourcing or onboarding in a more compartmentalized fashion and compare your metrics to those of the solution being offered or presented to you. Of course, the common ways that you even become aware of the technologies in the first place are that you often hear about the new solutions through conferences or webinars, word of mouth, and advertisement, or you simply just go looking for it. There are also experts in the field who spend even more time evaluating and indexing and publishing their findings for you. One of my most favorite and reliable sources is Recruiter Hunt, which was built and is tirelessly maintained by a brilliant friend of mine, Carmen Hudson. Check out her work at recruiterhunt.com, and I would encourage you to download the Chrome extension that reminds you to stay abreast of the tools in our space each and every time you launch a new tab in Chrome. In speaking to Carmen Hudson just today, she estimates that there are at least 20 new tools that she and her team identify each week. That's like over 1,000 each year. Let me share an example with you of how Reveal applies all that time and research and knowledge of the tools that we evaluate on behalf of our clients. So here's the story. A company of 300 people won a large new account that required them to hire another 80 people in a very short 4-month period. The roles were all professional, individual contributors, and the leaders of these new teams, all in the advertising and media vertical. We first sat with the leaders overseeing these individuals and the COO and CEO, CFO, and the head of HR to plan through our predictive hiring analytics tool. Let me mention that there's more going on in this tool that I cover in a separate video called Predictive Hiring Analytics. But as you can see, hiring 80 people means that around 6,000 people needed to be identified, applicants and passive talent. Also, another 1,500 candidates had to be phone screened by our team. We had to approach this differently. Phone screens involve massive amounts of time to schedule, reschedule, deal with no-shows, and of course to hold a 30-minute conversation. So we also had to help this client company handle somewhere around 350 interviews by training up other people in the company as interviewers who don't normally get involved with the interviews, because the number of hiring managers wouldn't allow for all of the interviews to be conducted in the time constraints that we had to work with. Now, let me share at least one tool with you for the sourcing of these 6,000 prospects. We used many tools and techniques, but the one that I wanted to highlight for you today is the Geofencing service through iHeartMedia. This is a technology that allows us to place advertisements for these opportunities on the smartphones of media planners, media buyers, and their managers and leaders who entered a specific building where they worked. We worked with iHeartMedia to target hundreds of companies across the US. The ad is seen when that person checks the weather or social media on their phone, and it stays on their phone for 30 days. That ad then led them to a call to action for engaging with us through one of multiple channels: text, email, chat, and so on. We chose to serve up a digital or video job description through a company we've been using for quite some time now called DigiMe. They do a great job in producing a 1-minute video using B-roll or stock footage that looks very much like the work environment of our client. Whether it's offices or construction or broadcasting, the travel industry, and so on, Their numerous professional talent individuals, voice talent, do a great job in explaining the opportunity. All right, that touches on a couple of the sourcing and engagement tools. Let me now tell you about one other tool that we've used in situations like this, where we have faced the challenge of hundreds of phone screens in a very compressed window of time. Autonomous video interviews. That allows for you to supply a link and an invitation for the prospect to participate in about a 15-minute interview at a time that is convenient and confidential for them. So when they open the link, they see a video of one of us thanking them for participating in this new method, for presenting their qualifications and experience, and then we explain that there will be 5 questions, for instance, and then they can consider their responses and then record their answer when they're ready. There are other ways available to do this, to structure it, but you get the idea. Then our recruiters are watching those videos back to back versus scheduling and rescheduling and holding phone screens. And we can share the video with the hiring manager if that were to be needed. The technology that we've used many times in the past is SparkHire. It's good, it's very inexpensive, and especially when you compare it to tools like HireVue. So that said, we're now building our own video interviewing and autonomous video interviewing platform in partnership with a company called Hinterview. It's a UK company. Okay, so that covers a number of specific examples of how you can also apply technology into your process to drive efficiency and effectiveness while still maintaining quality of the candidates, quality of the experience, and keeping costs down. So be sure to check out more resources on Carmen Hudson's website. Again, that's recruiterhunt.com. And I'll continue to stay in front of you with additional videos like this one. Hey, have a great day.